Welcome to this episode of Scoliosis Dialogues, the podcast for the Scoliosis Research Society. I'm very excited. Today we're going to interview the Executive Director of the Scoliosis Research Society, Ashtin Neuschaefer. So Ashtin has been with the Scoliosis Research Society since 2013 and has been the Executive Director since May of 2020. So that means she inherited this organization at a moment of global uncertainty and turmoil, and through that has steadily guided us forward to be a stronger and more successful society. She manages both an administrative team and surgeons, which probably can be a bit like cooking cats, but Ashtin does this seamlessly. She's also just a fun and wonderful person, and it's really time we highlight that here on the podcast. So welcome, Ashtin.
Thanks, Chris. I'm so excited to be here. It's been so fun to watch the podcast evolve, host a couple of episodes, and now to finally be a guest.
Yeah, and you were a great host. You did an excellent job.
Recently, I was a great host. The first time was maybe not so good.
No. So before we dive into the work of the society, I really would like to start with you. What originally drew you to the Scoliosis Research Society all those years ago, and what has kept you passionate about the mission over the years?
Sure. So, if I'm being completely honest, I really needed a job. And I was had been trying to get a job at our management company, EDI, for probably a decade at that point. And this position, it was program manager with SRS, opened up, and a friend in another organization had encouraged me to apply. So I did, and I came on board and was really kind of the pick and shovel person who did all the things nobody else wanted to do, processing dues payments, registrations, things like that. And so for that first year, I really just was learning my role and learning the society. And I would say it didn't even really sink in until my first annual meeting, which was in Anchorage in 2014. And that was when it clicked and it was like, oh, this is what this is all about. And shortly after that, I started working with the board of directors and really closely with Tressa Golding, who was the executive director prior to me. And I would say that during, especially those first few years, it was really impactful for me to be involved and to get to know not only the society, but the people. So I think the people are what make the mission for us. They are why I've been able to do this so long and to be so happy doing what I'm doing for so long. In your lovely intro, you mentioned that I took over as executive director in May of 2020. My 6 year anniversary is actually tomorrow.
Oh, happy
So
anniversary.
that's very exciting. Something that maybe not everybody knows is that while it was a time of great upheaval in our world in general, on top of everything going on, I also had a 7-month-old child, and a almost 4 year old who had been pulled out of school. And I have told this to multiple people. I don't know that I would have made it through those early months of COVID and been able to maintain this kind of position if it wasn't the SRS, because the people of the SRS are so special and everyone is so supportive and they all truly care about each other, but also me and my team. And so it was just a really wonderful environment in a really challenging time.
I can imagine, and that's so true. And it really leads us to our next question. Since you probably have the best appreciation for the full scope of this organization, what do you see as the core mission of the Scoliosis Research Society today? And how do you think, especially with all the things you've been through, that has evolved over the past, 10 years?
Yeah, I think our mission remains largely the same, maintaining the optimal care for all patients with spinal deformity. But how we do that is maybe evolving as we go along. And it's even though we don't, as a society, interact directly with patients all that often, um, we're here to impact the surgeon and to provide them with not only education, but the latest scientific updates, providing the research grants. I think that's really how we're maintaining our mission. by continuing to support the surgeons and the development of the field of spine deformity treatment as a whole.
That's awesome. I was just thinking back to probably around that Anchorage meeting, and I think you might have been the liaison for the committee that I was on back then.
Which one?
It might have been the Growing Spine Committee.
Yeah, I think I was.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, man, we got lucky. We got a good SRS staff member for our committee.
I did a
Oh,
lot of committee work back then.
yeah. There's so many. There's probably
Yes.
been a wide variety of committees that you've been part of through the different roles you've had.
Yeah, whether being a staff liaison or sitting in on, I've probably been involved in some way in almost every committee or task force that we've had over the last 12 and a half years. And on average, we have somewhere between 40 and 45 actively working at any given moment.
That's wild.
Yeah.
All right. From your vantage point as executive director, what do you think are the biggest ways that SRS actually impacts patient care around the world?
I think this goes back to how we're impacting our members and helping them learn and grow, not only as surgeons, but as individuals. We recently started the LEAD program, and I think that's changed the way that a lot of people that participate in that program interact with not only their peers, but probably their patients as well. It's giving them a little bit additional EQ training. So I think that that's one thing. The other thing, it's really hard on our staff side because we're the administrative team to maybe see that we're making that impact. But I'll go back to when Tressa was retiring about 6 years ago. One of the things that we gave to her was a scrapbook of all the pictures that we could find of her throughout the 30 years that she had been with SRS. And one of the other things that I did through that scrapbook was interacting with and getting letters from all of the past presidents that were still with us at that time. And to get those letters and to read what they had to say, they were so thankful, not only for her time, but so many of them said, the work that you did and helped the society do was directly impactful to not only myself, but it helped me become a better doctor for my patients. So I think that's the thing. Like, we don't see it always, but it's there. And there are a lot of people who would recognize that the work that the SRS is doing for them directly impacts how they treat their patients.
I very much agree with that. That is reflected in my practice for sure, and the practice of my partners. It, I wish we had a way of telling you more frequently how much it matters at what you do.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, we'll change gears a little bit. You've been around members of the SRS now for quite a few years. Do you have a favorite moment or memory that really captures what the society is all about?
There are so many special moments. It's really hard when you've been doing this for as long as I have. One of the earliest and probably most impactful moments for me, though, was the 50th anniversary meeting in 2015 in Minneapolis. Part of why that was so special, not only was it because almost everybody who was a member was there, we had record-breaking attendance. At that time, I was working with the historical committee, and especially Dr. Ekbarnia and Pat Castile, we worked so closely together to really make that meeting special. We made an entire museum. So if you were there, you could walk through that. And it was so wonderful to be part of that process and to learn more about the history of the SRS and the field and all the people involved. I don't know that I would have had as great of an understanding if I hadn't been part of that program. Um, so I think that was really special. And we did other things like a living legend session where we had a bunch of living legends do like interviews up on the stage and just a lot of really great pieces to go along with that. That's probably one of my favorite memories is being at that meeting.
That was a fun one. I sometimes go back and watch some of the interviews that were recorded, And it's really neat to see physical pieces of history. That's one of the
Mhm.
things I appreciated the most about that museum. Just going and seeing the actual instruments that were used, or
Yep.
original pedicle screws, or the napkin that McCarthy drew his Sheila on. It was, or I guess it was probably a bedside pad. But anyway,
No, it was a napkin
was it a napkin? Okay.
because it was at the Shilla Hotel or something like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Those were really fun
Yeah.
moments for sure. Well, speaking of meetings, let's lift the curtain for a second and give our listeners a behind the scenes view. What's something members may not fully appreciate about the work that happens at the SRS that helps make the meetings or research initiatives or education programs possible? Because I'm sure a ton of things happen that most of us never know about.
Yeah. If you're involved in any of the committees, you might have a little deeper understanding. But if you pull that curtain back even just a little bit more, the administrative staff, we are 12 individuals who run the entirety of all the programming within SRS, all the different things that we do, um, which it, there are so many pieces of, right? Like you wouldn't even begin to understand how much effort goes into putting together the final program, which I know is like a collector's edition item now at the annual meeting. Um, the number of edits and the amount of people who have to touch that to put different content into that is huge. Signage for the meeting, all of the back end on the abstracts, every one of you puts in so much effort to get your abstracts submitted. And then there's this core group who does such a tremendous job doing reviews, and does the selection process. But on the back end, the staff is so heavily involved in making sure that everybody's meeting the requirements and that things that aren't fully submitted, checking in to make sure that, this one author's disclosure, okay, do you want them to still be on or not? And then making sure that all of the massive spreadsheets, if you've ever been on one of those committees and seen one of the abstract selection spreadsheets, it's incredible to view. And they really do such a tremendous job making sure that that all stays organized and is well developed. And then working with our different providers on notifications and speaker ready room and all of these little things that you're like, oh, yeah, that just happened. It doesn't. It's a ton of work on the back end. And I am truly so thankful for my staff because it's a lot of work.
Any moments where you went, oh my gosh, this is just a catastrophe, and then it got fixed?
I don't know that we've had any major moments of huge catastrophe. Thankfully, I'm going to knock on wood and hope that that doesn't happen. There's probably things that in the moment maybe feel like a big problem, but it's a pretty easy fix. And so, like, it doesn't require that big of a freak out.
Well, you guys have the infrastructure to
Yeah.
easily fix those things. So it's all the pre-work you've done and
Yeah.
groundwork you've laid, I'm sure. All right. Well, if you had to pick poster session, podium, or hallway conversation, where do you think the most interesting ideas really happen?
Hallway for sure. Absolutely, hands down the hallway. You might have heard something in a podium presentation, but where you're really getting into it is off in the hallway, either with that author or with one of your friends or colleagues, and really diving into it because it spurred some other kind of idea. And that's really where you're fleshing that out more, for sure, hands down in a hallway.
What do you think has been your favorite SRS project to work on so far?
Again, there are just so many wonderful things that the SRS does. Um, I think the two that really stand out for me, in 2019, we did the research task force led by Marina Stokoiver when he was research council chair. And we really spent a lot of time reworking what does research look like to the SRS? What does that mean to the SRS? It is our middle name, as everybody loves to say. So we dove into that and we really laid great groundwork. to have good structure and a good process, and really modernize the process for all the things that we were doing within research and how that fell into the society. The other project that I am just so thankful to have been a part of. I had been thinking about it for a long time, and Serena, who had been thinking about it for a long time, and it just meshed at the like when she was president, it all came together. We had been talking about it was lead SRS. So leadership, education, and development SRS. It is just the most wonderful program, if I'm being completely honest. It's a year-long program. I know that you were part of our initial group that went through that, and it has evolved since then. Some of that thanks to your wonderful ideas, like the book club. Um, but it really gives a group of early to mid-career surgeons within the SRS a chance to not only develop their leadership skills, but to also learn about the society. So one of the very first sessions, actually the very first session that we do, is all about SRS. It's about where does the money come from? How does the society function in general? I give a talk about what does it mean to be a great society leader, because it's not the same thing as being a great surgeon. And you figure that out pretty quickly if you start to participate in committees and things like that. The other really wonderful thing is it's been able to give me some connection to developing members who I may not know yet. And so to be able to see and meet them and interact with them and then be able to help them along their path within the SRS is really fantastic. That first group, there was a lot of people I already knew because it was our first time. So people were kind of getting caught up into it. And now we're starting to see that younger group where we maybe didn't know them before. And it's been really fantastic to get to know them. And I can't wait to see where everybody goes within the organization.
When we just had a whole podcast episode on lead, so if you haven't listened to that and you're a listener, you should check that out.
It was really good.
Came out late April, early May. And it was very fun to do, but I very much appreciate the lead program. It was not only a great way to interact with the society, and I'm always looking for ways to give back to the SRS. So hopefully that's a step that helps me do that. But it was just really great content and really great speakers and a good education that will help me in so many ways going forward. I was so grateful to participate and so grateful to you that you and Serena helped create it.
Yeah, it's a really, really special program. And so I'm thankful we were able to create it. And I really hope that it is around for a long time because I think it's going to be super impactful to the way that we have leaders within this organization at every level.
It actually inspired me to create a residency, I mean, a leadership program for my residency.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I took that information, turned around, and now we're giving a lot of it to our residents in small chunks,
Yeah,
help them grow the same way that you guys are helping us grow.
that's great.
Yeah. Um, when you think about the next 5 to 10 years, what do you see as the biggest priorities for the society?
We actually just did a strategic planning meeting
Oh,
back
perfect.
in February. So there was a member survey in the fall, there were some interviews done, and then the executive committee actually came to Milwaukee to see our office, and we had our strategic planning meeting here. And we got some really good content out of that and some things that are really going to drive the way that we move forward over the next, probably 3 to 5 years. Nothing in this is in a particular order, but we're talking about early career pathways, looking at engaging fellows and people in their first 5 years of practice, making sure that we're truly integrating all of our global membership in all of the different categories. So not only US versus non-US, but adult serving versus pediatric serving, orthopedic versus neurosurgeon. All those different things are things that we always need to keep in mind within the SRS, because that is our complete population. Looking at our education ecosystem, what do we need to develop? How do we need to improve that? Making sure that our member experience is really lining up appropriately, and that maybe we're helping guide people through that process a little bit better, a little bit more clear. Whether or not they open those emails that we will send, at least we're providing the content, and then looking at some more of our research efforts.
There's so many different ways we can move forward, and I think those strategic planning sessions probably help a ton to focus. But it's true, we're so global, we're becoming more diverse,
Mhm.
and it's really an exciting part of the process. Are
It
there
is. It's a lot to keep in mind and to keep in consideration as you do different pieces of the puzzle.
I've even appreciated the addition of non-surgeons to some of
Mhm.
the groups. Like we have one on our committee who is an orthotist, and their perspective helps me
Mhm.
with my research and how I treat my patients, and I think will help us grow our resources better as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, two quick questions.
Okay.
What's the easiest part of your job?
The people.
And what's
Like I said before, just the most wonderful people within the SRS. Um, I I have a family and friends outside of the SRS, but truly I believe that so many of the people within the SRS I can call dear friends. And that, if I'm visiting a city, I will let them know that I'm coming, even if it's not SRS related. Unfortunately, I got sick when I was supposed to come visit you. I know. Um, but it's such a special group of people, and it makes it really worthwhile.
of course, you still have a standing open invitation to hang out
I
in Portland anytime.
know.
What's the hardest part of your job?
Also the people. So you mentioned it early on, in this conversation that there's a lot of strong personalities, right? And so
True.
managing that, and making sure that we're moving forward with the agendas that we've got set while making sure everybody's voice is heard and helping to facilitate that, and making sure that the president is able to keep that flowing seamlessly. It can be a lot sometimes, but it's challenging but rewarding at the same time.
On that note, the SRS does bring together a lot of smart and opinionated people. I mean, we're surgeons, we get it. Are there any debates or discussions at meetings over the years that really stood out to you as particularly memorable?
I've given that one a lot of thought, and nothing stands out, which is maybe a good thing. I know that there are things that have come up like every few years, where you're like, well, we did try that and we stopped doing it a few years ago for this reason. So there's some things that are a little bit cyclical, but overall, there's not really been anything super controversial, I'd say,
Yeah.
which is good.
Maybe in the back room or the hallway.
Yeah, probably in the hallway, right?
In the hallway. All right. Well, on a personal note, tell me about your sons and how you balance the demanding work that you do with raising these two amazing boys.
I'll go back to the early days of being exec, and the SRS is so supportive, and I would say that they have always been this way with me and my whole family. My oldest son, Noah, who will be 10 this month, which is wild to think about. His first SRS interaction was at 3.5 months old. He came to the annual meeting in Prague with my mom and I. And so he was just in a stroller. He had no idea what was going on, but everybody got to meet him, and everybody, asks about him and things like that. And then my younger son, Flynn, he'll be 7 later this summer. He was born right before the 2019 annual meeting. And so I didn't get to go to that meeting in Montreal, which was really made me quite sad. But throughout the meeting, people were sending me messages and, you know, Peter Newton, who I just adore tremendously, was president at that time. And during his presidential address, it was so lovely because I got so many pictures of this. He put up a picture of Flynn and I, saying, this wouldn't be possible without somebody who's not here to celebrate with us. And that was really meaningful, but it goes to show just how much the SRS cares about you as an individual. And so my two sons, again, almost 10 and almost 7, they know all about the SRS. They're like, oh, you're talking to Dr. Chris this morning. Okay. Or they're like, oh, Dr. Laurel, you're seeing her. And, she's sent pictures. Flynn is obsessed with her horses. So
Oh.
she'll send me pictures of Folsom to show him and things like that. But they are very in tune with what's going on in the SRS. And they maybe don't fully understand it, but like I can talk to them about it. And everybody in the SRS asks about him. And so when I go on trips, I'm like, oh yeah, and so was asking about you. And they know who most of you are, which I think is really special. How can I do this job with them? Well, a lot of support. And I think that a lot of people in this society know and understand how important that is to be really successful at your job at a high level. My parents live 10 blocks from my house. So they are super close, really involved. We live across from the elementary school, so it's super easy to get them to and from school. Their other grandparents are not far and are so helpful as well. So having the support of all the people around us is really what has made this possible. And then again, just the love and support from everybody within the SRS, it makes a difference.
I think just like the LEAD program creates a foundation for our members. I mean,
Hmm.
you're creating this foundation for them about what it looks like to help people
Hmm.
have global influence, to have a mom who is so dedicated to her job and how that pays off and the relationships you have and the networks you've developed. That's got to make, I mean, in the future, your kids will understand and know so much more because
Hmm.
of what they see. They have a front row seat to this.
Yep.
I think it's amazing.
They've sat in like when we were in COVID and it was virtual meetings, like they had to sit there and watch virtual spine presentations and it's like block their eyes when the surgical videos are being shown because they were like 4 and 1. But
Oh my gosh. Uh, some of you may know that I also have two boys, and mine like to now photobomb or Zoom bomb when I'm on meetings.
I have perfected being able to take a call with children crawling on me, and I'm sure many of you have as well. I have one picture on my phone that a member sent me. I was sitting on a call and I'm taking minutes, right? I am looking straight ahead, like nothing is going on, and Flynn is literally draped across the top of my head because he was like totally not into me being on this call. And I'm just sitting there like nothing is out of the ordinary. And whoever I was on the call with snapped a picture and they sent it to me and they're like, you're doing great. So,
Yeah. Oh, the memories we'll have from
yeah,
meetings. But you know, your kids are only little for so long, so it's
exactly.
kind of fun to enjoy it while we have it.
Hmm.
You've been working with surgeons for a long time now. Have you picked up any of their traits or bad habits or slang?
A couple of years ago, my high school girlfriends and I did a PowerPoint party at the holidays where we all presented about our jobs.
Oh, okay.
Because like as an adult, you're like, I actually don't know what any of you do, right? So we did that and I hosted it at my house, which was great. But it really helped me play into one of the habits that I've picked up from SRS. Um, I finished my PowerPoint mm, about 3 minutes before the first person showed up to my house. So that is the bad habit that I have picked up
Oh, you see us
is
all sitting in the back row still working on our presentations,
exactly,
waiting for the
exactly.
speaker ready room.
And in my slides, I put like things I've learned along the way, and that was one of them.
Oh, we've all been caught, guys. Jig is up.
Well, we all knew it a long time ago.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and early life.
So born and raised in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. So I'm a lifelong Milwaukee resident. Can't wait for you to all come and check it out for annual meeting 2031. I know it seems like a
Woo.
long ways away, but it's really not. Um, I have one sister, and we had a wonderful childhood and a lot of support. Um, I started working really early in hospitality, and so did my sister. She actually still works for that company, but started working at 14 and did that job for about 14 years, I think, which was hugely impactful. And then, was an athlete through high school, and then went away to college. But I went to a small town in Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and it wasn't that much away from home because my dad's family was all up there. And during that time, I got to hone some of my leadership skills. I became the boss at the recreation workout center.
Ooh, fun.
Meanwhile, I was also coaching high school volleyball at both the high school and at the club level, which was
Maybe
um,
that's
a,
fun.
it was no, it was actually a lot of fun. I'm actually still friends with quite a few of the girls. And it's interesting because you think back to high school and you're like, oh, that person was so much older than me. And then you realize like they actually weren't. Which is interesting now to see. So I'm like, oh yeah, they were younger, but now they're having kids and they're doing all these things. And I was like, oh, because they're not that much younger than me. Um, so just a lot of different things getting my hands into, and then came back to Milwaukee in 2008 after doing an internship in London, which was really exciting.
Oh, wow. How
Um,
long was that?
it was just for the summer, and it was online PR for the music industry. So I got to go to a lot of concerts and a lot of different things there, which was really exciting. Um, but came back, and it was not a great time. In general in 2008, housing bubble crash and all of that.
Yeah.
So came back to the hospitality industry, eventually left that to do some recruiting for a life insurance company. And I found out that I am not a salesperson. Um, Found out very fast. I am not a salesperson. While I may have believed in the product, I did not believe in convincing college age kids to sell life insurance to
Oh,
their friends and families. So it made it really hard to be good at that job. So I was really thankful when this opportunity came up to be able to not only get into the management company but then to find out that I fell into the exact right place.
really the best one. I don't know what else
Truly,
ABI has, but the SRS is the best.
I agree.
I hope the people at ACPDM aren't listening to this podcast.
I'm going to make sure I'm going to send it to them.
Well, I usually try to end with rapid fire lightning round questions. So
Uh-huh.
I have a bunch for you.
Here
You
we
ready?
go. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. What was your most memorable SRS meeting location?
Oh, most memorable meeting location. I'm going to say Kuala Lumpur for IMAS 2015 because I never ever would have gone there if it weren't for SRS.
That sounds like a great, I missed that meeting. Now I'm really
It
sad.
was very far away.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to Sydney pretty soon, so.
Yeah.
If you had a walk-up song, what would it be?
Shut Up and Dance with Me by Walk the Moon.
Oh, that's a good
I gave that one a lot of thought.
one. It's a tough question. Actually, I ask every interviewee what their walk-up song would be, and it's been interesting to see the trend as people get younger that we're interviewing for residency programs. They're moving toward a lot more EDM, which is surprising.
Interesting.
But then you
Yeah,
get a fan of classic rock in there, and you're like, okay, the world is
yeah.
fine.
It was hard though because you're like, oh, well, I love this song or I love this song, and you're like, but not as a walk-up
Walk-up.
song.
Yeah. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Totally Swirled by Ben and Jerry's.
Ooh. How would
Mhm.
you explain your job to a kindergartner?
You said it earlier, herding cats.
Yeah. Stubborn cats sometimes.
Yeah.
Very smart, but stubborn cats. Favorite drink?
So I'm pretty lame and I'd say water. But if I were to really go for it, the American Dream at Mana Blue in Nijmegen, the Netherlands, which is a lovely bacon washed bourbon drink with some spiced maple bitters that Chris and her fellow traveling fellows drank the last of when they were there.
That's true. So Ash, just for some context for our listeners, Ashton and Laurel were in Nijmegen um, about a year before us,
Hmm.
and told us while we were there we had to try this drink called the American Dream. And so we got there, and they actually told us they didn't have it anymore. And then they went and looked on some back shelves, and they found the very last bit of bacon wash bourbon that they had. So we drank the last of it, and then I think you guys went back, right? And then we
We haven't, oh no, we have been back and they did not have
have
it,
it. So
but
Lindsay Andrus and I deeply apologize, but I then sent you some
yes, you did.
bacon bourbon. So hopefully we're okay.
We are.
I probably have to send Laurel some too to make up for it. What's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
I don't know that anybody's ever necessarily said this to me, but I think that a lot of women, especially, um, have been encouraged in their life to be smaller, right? To be small and be contained. And that's terrible advice. I wouldn't be where I am and helping this organization be as successful as it is if I just sat back and kept myself small and didn't try to provide my insights or guidance.
I can't agree more with that advice. If you were to choose a totally different career, I love this question also. What would it be?
I'm really not sure, which means I haven't ever given it any other thought, which maybe SRS can feel really good about, right? My mom always said that I should be a teacher while I was growing up, and that never stuck. I really loved like English lit and all of that, but I wanted nothing to do with teaching kids. So definitely not that. I think it'd be probably helping lead some kind of organization, maybe not an association, but that's the best I've got because I've never thought about leaving. You know,
Oh,
it's funny because last summer, Eric Major asked me something similar. And I was like, I mean, I plan on being here for a long time. Like, I'm not that old. I plan on being here till I retire if I'm lucky. So that's all I got.
all right. We'll
Because
ask you that
I have
question
to be
again
here
in a
that
couple
long
weeks.
because you, me, and Chris are going to be the senior traveling fellows.
That's right. The fairy godmothers
Yeah.
sometime in the future. Um, and last one that wasn't on your sheet, but now that you've announced the 2031 annual meeting will be in Milwaukee, are we having a party at Ashton's house?
Oh, God, no. Mostly because I already told you all that I have two little boys, so my house is never guest ready. We can have a party somewhere else.
Okay, fair. Well, I think this has been the best podcast ever and a perfect reminder of how lucky we are as a society to have you as our champion, our cat herder, and our leader. So, on behalf of the whole society, we hope you do stay with the SRS forever.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. I mean, SRS truly does mean the world to me. So I'm so thankful for all of you and for the opportunity to have been on this podcast.
Finally, there are two upcoming hands-on courses, one in the Czech Republic and in Sao Paulo this summer, and registration has opened for the annual meeting in Sydney, Australia, October 6th through 10th. We can't wait to see you down under.
And abstract notifications just went out, so check your email.